everybody, and welcome back to the Bay Bolts channel. As always, my name is Jake Ricker, and alongside me is my good friend and co-host Michael Wax. Unfortunately, though, we have to talk about another loss as the New York Islanders have forced a game 7 as they win game number 6 by a score of 3-2 in overtime. Michael, I know it was a tough loss. I know it was very frustrating for both fans, but how you feeling today?
So, what do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about the 2-0 blown lead? Do we want to talk about how the tying goal was scored by somebody that got no repercussions for injuring star players? Do we want to talk about Blake Coleman's really bad pass in overtime, the piss poor officiating, or the biased commentary? I would love to talk about all of them, but man, I don't know what happened. Like, I thought the Lightning had this game in the bag, and unfortunately, we'll have to go to a game 7. So it's going to be a tough game to recap because you really thought the Lightning were going to win this game at least halfway through it.
Well, let's break it down period by period and go through it. Let's take a look at some of the positives, some of the negatives from this game. I know overarching it's a big negative because you end up losing the game. But starting off with the first period. So the biggest issue in the first period came about a minute into the game where Nikita Kucherov left the game. At first, nobody really knew why it happened. Upon later looks, there was a supposed he tried to throw a hit on Matt Barzell, which missed. I don't think that was a major cause of the injury. It didn't look anything serious. There was a cross check that was later found earlier in that shift where Kucherov got cross checked. I know right in front of official. I'm sure Michael will get to that though. And he was definitely shaken up after that a little bit. So nobody knows exactly 100% what caused the injury, although it's more than likely probably the cross check. Cooper has not given an update on Nikita Kucherov. We don't know what the injury was, where the injury was, how long it'll be. But the fact that he did remain out for the entire game is a concerning sign, I think, and that we have no update because if it was not serious, Cooper would have said something in the press conference. So hopefully Kucherov is okay. This is going to be a problem for the Bolts, which I'll actually get to a little bit later. It already showed up in this game with not having Nikita Kucherov, the leading scorer in the NHL playoffs. But that's a big problem for the Bolts, losing Nikita Kucherov.
Oh, it's massive. He's the leading scorer of the playoffs by a wide margin. Braden Point is second, and he's not particularly close. And when we talk about Point being a better playoff performer than Kucherov, we're talking about goals specifically and two-way play. But Kucherov's a man that gives the puck to the other guys. Like, this is going to be a big, big problem. Kucherov is unable to go in game 7 because now, especially on that power play, and the Lightning, I believe, had 2 power play opportunities in this game, which, sure, you give us 2 power plays, not enough, but whatever. Uh, they struggled. They generated chances on the second one. They looked a lot better on the second one. However, they still lacked in that same spot that they had Nikita Kucherov. The one thing that you could say about the power play last year when Steven Stamkos was out in the bubble after that first round series against the Blue Jackets was that Andre Palat was there and he was willing to shoot the puck and the puck went in for him. This time he's there. I didn't see a whole lot of shot opportunities for him. Like, I think Nikita Kucherov's absence is biggest on the power play because he leads the team in power play points by a large margin. But he's gonna be missed at 5-on-5 too. Like, they're gonna have to make some serious lineup changes if he's not there for game 7.
And the thing is, too, Palat fits in well for Stamkos because Stamkos and Palat kind of do the same thing, where they'll sit in that circle, try to take a good shot. And Palat got really good at it in the bubble. Nikita Kucherov is, he'll shoot and he can score some goals, but he's also really good at making excellent passes and setting up guys like Braden Point and Steven Stamkos. So that's definitely going to be a problem for them, depending on Nikita Kucherov's readiness. I don't expect him to be ready for Game 7 because if he stayed out this whole entire game and there's still no update, I'd be surprised if he's good to go. But we will see, and it's going to be interesting to see who slots in for Nikita Kucherov. I would expect maybe Matthew Joseph to get back in the lineup, but we'll talk about that a little bit at the end of this video. The Lightning did score first in this game. Braden Point, now 9 goals in a row, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I know this loss stunk, but if there's anything to take away positive from this, it's Braden Point's success. He has been unbelievable. So the Lightning at the end of the first period were up 1-0. And, I think, Michael, a lot of Lightning fans are feeling pretty good. Great first period. You're up 1-0. You had most of the pressure. Looking good so far after 20.
Yeah, they looked really good, especially playing 11-6, which, a lot of the commentary was like, well, the Lightning are experienced at playing 11-7. They weren't, though. They were playing 11-6, which is much different. You have much different rotations. I thought the first line, which had auditions from Tyler Johnson, Steven Stamkos, and Ross Colton, was still good. Like, it was still very good. Anthony Cirelli was on there a ton as well. And he was the guy that made that goal happen behind the net. He got that puck. He got the puck on net, and Braden Point was able to find a rebound. We talk all the time about how Braden Point's the best playoff performer of all time for the Lightning. This is why. It's because he scores goals, and he scores timely goals at that. And you really thought, even with the Kucherov injury, the 1-0 lead, or probably wasn't going to hold, because the Islanders were most likely going to come back from a 1-0 deficit. It was going to be the catalyst for the Lightning getting everything together and trying to win this game.
So let's head into the second period where the Lightning would actually extend their 1-0 lead as Anthony Cirelli on a breakaway. It felt just like it did in game 6 of overtime last year when the Lightning moved on to the Stanley Cup Finals. Cirelli came in, made a beautiful move and went 5-hole on Varlamov, and Lightning were up 2-0. So again, feeling really good. The Islanders would get one back though, as Jordan Eberle takes a backhanded shot and puts it in the back of the net and scores now 2-1. But at the end of 2 periods, Lightning are still up 2-1. So again, Lightning playing very well for the most part, despite not having Nikita Kucherov. They're getting good chances. They're taking away a lot of the Islanders' chances. You're feeling pretty good. But I think even in the second period, towards the end there, you started to see the Islanders build a little bit of momentum. And it definitely carried over into the third.
Yeah, absolutely. The Lightning played really well up until the Jordan Eberle goal, and then I think they really struggled. Of course, the Eberle goal is a product of Killorn being hooked on the wrist, not being able to contest the shot, being completely uncalled. Uh, the officiating in that second period was atrocious. It was the worst of any of the periods, any of the 4 periods that the Lightning and Islanders played. It was atrocious. The cross check from Kucherov was bad, but when you have someone like Steven Stamkos repeatedly get cross checked into the boards, it has to be called a penalty. And yet they go into intermission, and Blake Coleman's also getting a penalty as well. So it's a 4-on-4. You're doing nothing by making sure that neither of these teams have an advantage. And I know a lot of people online were like, well, Ryan McDonough did worse things in the Florida series. Why aren't you penalizing Ryan McDonough? We said countless times that Ryan McDonough had bad hits and Ryan McDonough might have gotten suspended. You need to be consistent. If you are going to fine, penalize, suspend McDonough, you need to do the same thing with the guy that ends up scoring the tying goal.
Yeah, I know it's frustrating, and it's both ways too. I think there were some missed calls in the Lightning that clearly should have been called, and it's tough. But I think John Cooper kind of said it even with the Kucherov injuries, like you know what, yeah, more because he didn't see it. I don't think he really wanted to talk about it. But at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do. You got to move on. You got to find ways to win these games, but definitely extremely frustrating when the officials just seem the worst. And it's everywhere. It just seems like this year is really bad, but hopefully that'll change next year. But as of right now, I don't think anything's going to change anytime soon, which is unfortunate. But going into the third period, Islanders have the momentum and they continue to play that way. They played a very good third period to their credit, and they would eventually tie this game with about 9 minutes left in the third period. Scott Mayfield puts one in the back of the net. Vasi, I didn't think have his greatest game. He played okay. There were a couple ones he thought I think maybe he wanted that back that he's so good you expect him to save those type of ones. But the Islanders have it tied 2-2 at the end of the third period. And the Lightning just seemed I don't know if they got tired or if they're just weren't there all mentally. I don't know what it was, but it definitely seemed like they just fell a step behind. And that's what created those Islanders opportunities. And eventually, you're going to get one in the back of the net.
Yeah, and this is going to be a game that not a lot of people are going to remember. But of course, because we're lightning nuts, I've gone back and watched the first Stanley Cup run in 2004. Game 6, actually, excuse me, against Philadelphia, the Lightning were up by 1 goal with a little bit of time left to go. I believe it was like 10 minutes left in the game. And they completely turtled. And they allowed Philadelphia to tie the game with like a minute left in the game and win it in overtime in their home arena. That really felt like what was going on here in this game. The Lightning decided after the 2-1 goal, okay, we're going to play defensive. And unfortunately for them, they played really well defensively in game 4. Don't get me wrong, they played exceptional defense. They did not play that well today. And they paid for it. I don't know if the Islanders would have tied it if there would have been actual discipline handed out. But they probably would have because they have a good team with a lot of good goal scorers. So, with the way that they were playing, it really felt inevitable that this game is going to be tied. Now, after the tie game, you would expect the Lightning to play a little bit better, and they just didn't. So you ultimately go into overtime and you're asking yourself, okay, this needs to get solved fast if the Lightning are going to win. And unfortunately for them, it did get solved fast. They didn't win.
Yeah, that and so going into overtime, you're hoping maybe they can come out strong. I think they were okay, but then a bad turnover in front of the net leads to an Islanders goal, and they end it just a minute and 8 seconds into overtime. So the Islanders win it 3-2. Then they win the game and send it back to Tampa Bay for a game 7. So unfortunate for the Lightning that they weren't able to close this one out. I know they would have really loved to, but the good news for the Lightning, at least, is that they were not on the chopping block, so to speak. So they do have another chance to close this game out, but an unfortunate loss for the Lightning. So looking ahead, game 7 will be on Friday at 8 o'clock in Amalie Arena. And here's some good news for Bolts fans. The one thing is, well, the Lightning are still undefeated since the last 2 postseasons after a loss. The Lightning very pretty much always play their best hockey after they lose a game. They get frustrated and they say, we're not going to let that happen again. And Victor had some comments after the game. He even said, we're going to come out and play our best game. So you know that they're going to play their best. And I think that's good news for Bulls fans. This is the first game 7 that they've played in since 2018. The last one was also in the Eastern Conference Finals at home against the Washington Capitals. Unfortunately, that one did not go our way, as many sure Lightning fans know. Hopefully, we get a different result this time, and the Lightning can punch their ticket to their second consecutive Stanley Cup final. But the bigger news here, too, Michael, Nikita Kucherov, more than likely out. So who do you expect to slot in? My guess is Matthew Joseph, but there are a couple options for the Lightning.
Yeah, I would love if Joseph came into the lineup. The problem with Joseph is that you don't know where to put him because first line, he's not really ready for first line minutes. You put him on the top 6 with someone like Sorelli and Killorn and bump up Stamkos. Maybe they've done that before. Do you put him on the fourth line? It feels like his fourth line, its speed is wasted on that fourth line. His tenacity is wasted on that fourth line. The fourth line's been generating chances, don't get me wrong, but it feels like he's only going to play like 5 to 7 minutes in that game. So who knows? The we're gonna get the Mitchell Stevens hype train back up because I'm not going to lie, the fourth line centermen in the faceoff dot tonight or last game were horrific. Ross Colton was at 33.3%. Tyler Johnson was at 25%. That dragged the team total down by a ton. And I understand that Tyler Johnson was playing a little bit on the first line, a little bit on the third line, a little bit on the fourth line. That can't happen though. When you are playing against the Islanders' identity line on the fourth line, you need to win those faceoffs because if you have the puck, they're useless. They do nothing. They try to injure you, but ultimately they do nothing. So if you get the puck off the faceoff, that is good news. And I really think that Mitchell Stevens and his 58% in the regular season in the faceoff dot are really going to help the Lightning. Maybe you bring in someone like Jamel Smith. The options are endless. I saw in the, I believe it was game 5 or game 6, the pregame, that Taylor Radish was practicing. He was the only one practicing in that spares group. I wouldn't put him in for game 7, but he's a really good goal scorer. They have options.
Yeah, they do, and it'll be interesting to see what John Cooper decides to do. I think any of them could work and have their benefits. Let us know in the comments down below who you think, though, is going to slot in for this game or who you would like to see, and we'll find out Game 7 who fits in, or maybe hopefully Nikita Kucherov is okay and he can play Game 7. That's the ideal situation right there, but I just don't know. I think we need to talk about before we wrap up this video is that Jan Ruda was in this game. Eric Chernak was out, which, Chernak is a big part defensively. We saw when Chernak was out earlier in the year that the Lightning did struggle defensively. So, he's a big piece, whether you believe it or not. It doesn't feel like he is all the time because he's one of those bottom 6 guys, lower on the totem pole, so to speak, but he definitely plays a big role for the Lightning. So hopefully he'll be able to be back. He was supposed to be a go for game number 5, I believe it was, and then just wasn't able to go. Didn't play game 5, was still out for game 6. So I don't know what is bothering Zernak right now, but hopefully he can be back for game 7. That would also be a big boost for the Lightning if they get him back and have that full defensive pairing again.
Yeah, and I think that Luke Shen has played relatively well
Yes.
in these games, and it's not his fault that the Lightning sort of collapsed defensively in Game 6. I will say as well that Jan Bruda has definitely been one of the better Lightning defenders in this series. I know he had some turnovers in this game that led to Islanders scoring chances, but him and Savard have, in my opinion, been the MVPs defensively. You could talk about Ryan McDonough being a penalty kill warlord, basically, especially on that 5-on-3, where it seems like it was a 5-on-1. He was just doing everything by himself. I think the right-handed side has been good, even with the injury to Eric Chernak. But when you can get Chernak back, you can reunite that stout defensive pairing of Ryan McDonough and Eric Chernak. Teams are going to have a really hard time beating you. So I really hope that Eric Chernak plays. I hope he's at 100%, but even if he's at 80 to 90%, he'll be better than Luke Shen. And that's not a dig against Luke Shen. Eric Chernak is just that good.
No question about it. So, Michael, anything else to add before we wrap this one up and hope that the Bolts can close it out in game number 7?
The Lightning are going to win Game 7.
I like the confidence. I believe they will too. Like we said, undefeated after a loss. I think those guys play their best hockey and they seem pretty confident that they'll come out strong in game 7. But that's going to do it for us, guys, in today's video. Be sure to leave a like down below if you did enjoy this video. It really helps us out here on YouTube. Let us know you're enjoying these videos. Let us know down in the comments any and all thoughts you've had on this game. If you agree with us, disagree with us, love to hear. Give me your score predictions too for game number 7. Are we going to take it home and go back to the Stanley Cup final for the 2nd year in a row? Be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on future videos just like this one. And remember, it's not over yet. Your Tampa Bay Lightning are still your defending Stanley Cup champions.
Go Bolts.